Mr. Martinez, you may continue.
When you were at this Starbucks, had you already called Mr. Alexander or not?
I don't think so.
So you called him after the Starbucks, and that's when you gave him the news that you were going to come out to Mesa, correct?
I called him twice. I can't remember because I called him and I texted him. So it was around that time, but it was after I left Starbucks and the gas station, I believe.
And so it was after that that you then tell him the news that you are going to go, right? Come to Mesa, right?
Yes.
And one of the things that you told us that the reason that you came out here was that he had an ability to, according to you, to just basically guilt you into doing things, right?
Yeah, but in a sweet way.
Well, guilt is guilt, whether it's sweet or bittersweet. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes.
And so it's not a very positive thing to be guilted into something, right?
I don't know.
Pardon?
I kind of felt good when he was doing it.
So was it something that your voluntary will was overcome by just him asking?
No, it was my voluntary will was not overcome.
And in fact, he was sweet about it, right?
Yes.
It wasn't like he was mean about it, right?
No.
And you called him. Why call him after you've already gassed up and everything and you're on your way to Utah? Why call him if you've already made the decision to go to Utah? Why give him a call? Well,
Why? Because as I was calling him prior to the trip, he kept, guilting me would be the term, and to be honest, it was flattering and I enjoyed hearing it.
so prior to you ever initiating the trip, you and he talk about this trip, right?
Prior to initiating the whole road trip or just the
Right.
part to
Prior
Arizona?
to initiating the trip, you told us that he called you. And you told him about it.
Yes.
And you indicated that he was guilting you into coming to Mesa, right?
Yes.
And you also indicated that, well, because of that, that's the reason why you changed your mind, right?
Yes.
So it took approximately 2 days for you to change your mind after he talked to you, right?
No. He found out about a week before.
So in other words, it was a week before that he laid the guilt trip on you.
The first time, yes.
So he laid the guilt trip on you more than once.
Yes.
And the last time was before you left on the trip, right?
Yes.
And so it isn't like while you were on the trip that he's calling you and saying, come out to Mesa, right? He's not doing that according to your testimony.
We talked, but he wasn't calling me.
Right. But you talk, but it's not like he's telling you when you talk, hey, come see me, is he?
When I'm on the road?
Right.
Yes, absolutely he is.
Oh, so he's also guilting you then, right?
Yes.
And it's something that you keep saying that he keeps guilting you. That's the phrase that you're using, right?
Yes.
And, you smiled there like it was something pleasant.
Yeah, he was very sweet about it.
Right. And so did he guilt you before getting to Pasadena?
Every time we talked, he did. I don't remember all the times. I was bored on the road and I called a lot of people.
Right. And so the last time that you talked to him before the Starbucks was when?
Sometime on the road, I don't remember.
And would it be between Salinas and Pasadena?
I think so.
And during that time, he guilted you, right?
Yes.
If he keeps guilting you from the beginning, well, and you're going on this trip to see an individual by the name of Ryan Burns, right?
Yes.
You have a romantic interest in Mr. Burns, right?
Potential romantic interest.
All right, potential romantic interest in Mr. Burns, right?
Yes.
And so you're on this trip to do the PPL thing, right?
Yes.
And you're doing the Ryan Burns thing, right?
Yes.
And you have Mr. Alexander guilting you, right?
Yes.
If he's guilting you, and you already have another beau or another person out there, why do you keep exposing yourself to it?
Well, Travis had that effect on me, I guess you
Well,
could say.
It was because you liked it, isn't it?
I did like it.
And because you liked it, then it wasn't guilting you. If you liked it,
Well, it's the way he couched the terms, that's why I say guilt.
well, guilt implies that it's something unpleasant, right?
That's not what I
Yes,
meant
yes,
to
ma'am.
imply, but
Oh,
Our
sure.
FTR is down again. We have technical difficulties. It will take about 3 minutes. You may continue.
We were talking about your indication that Mr. Alexander guilted you into coming to Mesa, Arizona back on June 3rd or June 4th of 2008. That's what we were talking about, correct?
yes.
Now, the way you describe it, though, you're using the word guilt, but what you're actually telling us is that you were flattered that he wanted to see you.
That's true.
And if he's flattered that he wants to see you, then it really isn't a guilt thing, is it?
It kind of was a thing in our relationship, so I would still call it guilt.
You called it guilt, but actually you were flattered by it, right?
Yes.
And so you decided that instead of going to see Mr. Burns, you were going to instead come to see Mr. Alexander, correct?
Yes.
And it was your decision solely, right?
Yes.
And one of the things that we know is that now in your car you have at least 12 extra gallons worth of gas, right?
Well, I have the 2 5s. And
Well, let's do this. You have a car full of gas, correct? A tank full of gas, right?
Yes. Mhm.
You have 2 5-gallon tanks, 2 5-gallon cans full of gas, correct?
That's correct.
And then you have an extra 2 gallons, right?
Yes, somewhere.
And these cans are in the trunk of the car, correct?
Yes.
And you're driving along, and even though you have this gas in the back of your car, you decide that you're going to stop at Desert Center and put gas in the car, right?
That's right.
And again, the purpose of you bringing the gas cans is financial, isn't it?
Initially, that was the purpose.
And so gas is supposedly cheaper here in Arizona than it is in California, right?
That's been my experience.
So you could have used the gas in the cans, but you decided not to, right?
Yes.
You also indicated when you stopped at Desert Center. Well, is there a receipt for that, or did you pay cash for that?
I paid cash, and I believe there was a receipt.
So the receipt you just didn't keep, right?
I can't say I didn't keep it, but
Well, if you were
to it.
going to deduct it as a business expense, you by necessity need to have it, right?
Yes, but trip to Travis's was not a business expense.
Well, he also was with PPL, right?
Yes.
He also conducted trainings, right?
Yes.
And it could have been, if you went to dinner or something, and the two of you talked about PPL, it could be considered a business expense, couldn't it?
Objection, speculation as to business deductions.
Overruled.
If I wanted to cheat on my taxes, I could have used it as a business expense.
So you're saying it's okay to lie to police, but not okay to cheat on your taxes, right?
Objection argumentative.
So you say you didn't want to cheat on your taxes, right?
I didn't say that.
When was the last time that you filed your taxes? Before 2008.
Objection as to relevance.
Have you taken tax deductions prior to 2008 on your income taxes?
Yes.
And so, but there's no receipt that you know of right now of your stop in Desert Center, correct?
Well, there was a receipt. I don't know where it is, if it still exists.
All right. And then but do you know whether or not you paid with cash or a MasterCard?
I'm pretty sure that I paid cash, but I don't remember.
All right, so you paid cash there. And then you came to California, and if we're talking about the amount of money that it takes to fill up a car, if we go with Winnemucca indication, that was approximately $40, wasn't it?
I believe it was. I don't remember. It was somewhere in that range.
It was 12 gallons, though, wasn't it?
Yes.
You then came to Arizona and you stopped in Buckeye, right?
Yes.
And you filled up again, right?
Yes. I think I filled up.
And again, it would be or over 12 gallons, correct?
Objection, foundation. There's no evidence to that effect.
Overruled. You may answer.
I think.
And given the prices that we've been seeing here, for example, in exhibit number 237, It's bad exposure, so. You see the price of gas there is $4 and 4.169 per gallon, right?
Yes.
If we round that down, what we're talking about, for example, at Desert Center, if you're putting in 12, well, here in Buckeye, did you use your MasterCard or your debit card, or did you use cash?
I'm pretty sure that I used cash, but I'm not positive.
All right, let's say that you used cash. If we're then talking about 12 gallons at Desert Center at $4, that's approximately.
Objection, Your Honor. Foundation, there's no evidence of how much the gas costs in Buckeye or Desert Center. He's using Pasadena numbers.
Is this a hypothetical?
Pardon?
Is this a hypothetical or you?
It is a hypothetical.
All right, overruled.
Hypothetically speaking, ma'am, if the gallon of gas is $4 at Desert Center and you put 12 gallons of gas in it, that's $48, correct?
$4 and how many gallons? 12? Yes.
And if you do the same thing in Buckeye, that's another $48, right?
Yes.
And if we're doing the math, that's $96 total, right?
Yes.
If we add the $96 to the $85 that you've already put in California, that's approximately $181, right?
96 plus how much?
85.
How much did you say what the total was?
181.
Yeah, I guess.
Assuming the math is correct, it's
Assuming the math is
$181,
correct.
right?
Yes.
You told us when you left on this trip that the most you had was $200, right?
I wasn't sure, but I was guessing that was probably it.
Right. So now you're out of money, right?
Not necessarily.
Well, if you took $200 and you spent $185, you're now out of money, right?
Under this hypothesis, yes.
Okay. And you're in Arizona. You haven't even arrived at Mr. Alexander's yet, correct?
Not yet. I'm in Buckeye, I think is where we left off.
And so then you get to Mr. Alexander's house and you indicate to us that he is there and you see him, you want some videos, right?
Yes.
This issue of him guilting you, you were free to say no, correct?
Yes.
And you were free to walk away from him and his request at any time, right?
At that point in time, yes.
This was a choice that you made to go over, correct?
Yes.
And it was a choice because, what, you loved him?
I still loved him, yes.
Were you in love with him? I think you make that distinction sometimes.
It wasn't the same kind. I don't really know. I wouldn't say in love in the sense that I've been in love in the past where I want to be with him forever or, you know, have a life with him, but I still had strong feelings for him.
And so, from what I hear you saying, the purpose of you going there was sex then?
Objection, she's talking about love and not sex.
Rephrase, distinct.
Well, you said that you weren't in love with him anymore. You just told us that, right?
Not in the same way.
Right, exactly. You did love him, right?
Yes.
And we heard on a May 10th, 2008 conversation between the two of you, right?
May 10th, yes. That's right.
And in which you and he talked heatedly about sex, right?
Yes.
And so it appears that if you weren't in love with him and you just loved him and you were going there, and based on that conversation, was one of the purposes for going there on your part was to have sex with him.
That was one of the purposes.
So it wasn't like he foisted it. In other words, he forced you into anything, right?
No, nothing was forced.
And so you get there and you go to sleep, right?
Not immediately, but yes.
Shortly thereafter, correct?
Yes.
He doesn't force himself upon you, does he?
No.
In fact, what ends up happening is that you guys sleep most of the next day away, correct?
Yes.
And you get up around sometime around 1 o'clock in the afternoon, right?
That's when we were both awake, yes.
And presumably you eat breakfast, is that correct or not?
I don't remember eating yet.
Do you eat it when you get up at all?
After the sex, I think I had a banana and he had oatmeal or something.
So you had sex before having breakfast, correct?
Yes.
And during this time is when you indicate that the rope is used, right?
Yes.
And the length of the rope that we're talking about is approximately 20 feet, right?
Objection, foundation.
Overruled.
I would say it was from me to maybe Flores, maybe slightly shorter or slightly longer.
Do you remember speaking with Mr. Samuels, Dr. Samuels, Richard Samuels?
Yes,
And in fact, you talked to him about this particular rope, right?
yes.
You told him it was 20 feet, right?
It was a guess. I don't know how long 20 feet is.
Ma'am, you did tell him it was 20 feet, right?
I think I approximated it, but I didn't say it was exactly 20 feet.
So if he has 20 feet written down, that's not what you said.
Objection, argumentative.
Overruled.
I may have said 20 feet, but I was still guessing.
All right, so did you indicate to Richard Samuels that you were guessing when you said 20 feet?
I might have. We
And-
didn't measure the rope.
Pardon?
We didn't measure the rope.
All right, but it was a very long rope then, right?
Yes.
Did you also tell Richard Samuels that you and Mr. Alexander took photographs of each other?
Yes.
And did you tell him that the photographs that Mr. Alexander took of you while he was penetrating you and you were on top of him? Did you tell him that?
No.
So if that's his understanding, that's incorrect.
No, that was the video.
Now, I'm asking you about whether or not you told him that.
I told him that, but not photographs, just the video.
So if he says the photographs show that, he is incorrect.
I would believe so because I don't think we took any photos in that manner. I couldn't figure out the timer.
So my question to you is, did you ever tell him that the photographs were taken while you were on top of him in that fashion as I previously described? Did you tell him that, yes or no? That's all I need.
I think I said video, so probably not photos.
So is the answer no?
The answer is photos? No. The
No.
answer is no.
No, all right. And so you said that you engaged in whatever activity you were engaging in, and at some point you were tied up, right?
Yes.
And when you're tied up, it's loose enough so that you can get out at any time, correct?
Yes.
And you say that at some point it's not going well or it's not as pleasant as thought, and the ropes are cut, right? For the knife.
No, the ropes were cut prior to being tied up so that we could measure out for the nooses.
So in terms of when you're done using the ropes, didn't you indicate previously that they were cut off of you?
No, I could slip my wrists in and out.
So you slipped your wrists out.
Yes.
And so in other words, the rope is there, you guys are using it. Where the piece that you didn't use, where did it go?
It was there at the time.
I know it was there at the time. Where there?
Either in the bedroom or bathroom. I can't remember.
Pardon?
Either in the bedroom or bathroom.
So you don't know where it was, is what you're telling me, right?
Are you talking about the portion we did not use?
That's the portion that I'm talking about.
It was thrown aside somewhere. I don't know.
So when you said bathroom, why were you saying bathroom?
Because he went all the way to the bathroom and I was all the way near the bed. We were just seeing how long it was.
So did he go down the hallway or did he go through the closet?
Down the hallway.
And he made it all the way back to the bed with it, right?
Wouldn't he? What do you mean?
Well, with the rope in his hand, when you guys were measuring, it appears that one of you held one end and he held the other, right?
Yes, first he cut it and then he came back to the bed.
Was there any holding of it such that you were able to see the length of the rope? That's what it appears
Yes.
that you told us.
Yes,
Okay? Which end did you hold? The end in the bedroom or the end in the bathroom?
the end in the bedroom.
And he was in the bathroom, right?
Yes,
And so you're saying that even though he's in the bathroom, when you guys are checking to see the length of this particular rope, that he cuts it in the bathroom, right?
yes he did.
What's the purpose? What is the necessity of cutting it in the bathroom? Why would you even need to cut this rope?
Because it was too long to make nooses on the ends.
So you're saying that the only way to make a noose at the end of this rope is if you get it the exact size of the bed, if you will, all the way around so that it comes to whatever part of your anatomy is going to be tied up so that the ends meet exactly there. That's the only way that this is going to work. And that's why you guys needed to cut it, right?
That's not what I'm saying.
Calls for speculation as to Mr. Alexander's plan.
Sustained.
You were there, right?
Yes,
And you were part of this plan, right?
yes,
You were helping, right?
yes.
So you knew what was going on, right?
I knew I was going to be tied up.
Pardon?
I knew I was going to be
Right,
tied.
and so you knew that's why the rope was being cut, right?
Yes,
According to you, right? And so the way you're describing it is that the rope had to be a certain perfect length in order for the tying up to take place.
Same objection, Your Honor, speculating on Mr. Alexander's plan in terms of the length.
Overruled.
I don't know. What was the question? I'm sorry.
Mike, could you please read it back?
So you're saying that the rope had to be a certain length for it to be perfectly the same length for this to take place?
I guess it had to be a certain length, but I don't know where perfect comes in.
Well, couldn't it be, ma'am, that the rope, whether it was 20, 15 feet, if it was going to be wrapped around something, you didn't have to have the ends where your hands or wrists were going to be. It could be a little longer, and you could just tie it up, and there would be some left over. You could do that, couldn't you?
I don't know how to make nooses, so I don't know the answer to that.
I'm not talking. This wasn't a case where he was going to hog tie you, right?
No.
This wasn't a case where he wanted you immobile, right?
Objection calls for speculation. I don't know what he wanted.
Feigned rephrase.
Well, you said that you're free to move there, right? Get your hands out, right?
Yes, if I
And
needed
those
to.
were the only things that were tied, right?
Yes.
So the purpose of this rope is purely decorative for the fantasy of it, right?
Yes.
So it's not a situation where you have to know an exact tie. In other words, you don't have to have an exact noose or to go around the wrist. You can just put it on there, right?
Objection. This argument calls for speculation.
Overruled.
I don't really know what kind of knot was required. I just call them nooses. 'cause
You've
they
tied
kind of
shoes before,
adjust
haven't you?
them. Yes.
And you've put two ends of string together and tied them together, haven't you?
Yes.
And the previous time that he tied you up, it was the same sort of thing. He just tied you up, right?
Same sort of thing as shoelaces? No.
I'm not saying it was with shoelaces. I'm saying there was a knot. That's all
Yes.
that is required, right?
Yes.
And so to make a knot, there is no exact ending to the rope that needs to be there. The rope can be whatever length you want it to be. And then you just, in this case, put your wrist through it, you tie it loose, and you don't need to be cutting it, do you?
Objection. Asked and answered, and it's argumentative.
Overruled.
Well, I didn't cut it, so I don't know.
Well, you were a participant in this, and you were holding one end, right?
Yes.
And you were going to have your wrist tied, right?
Yes.
And so and the rope was soft, right?
Yes.
And so you knew that you could take the end of the rope and tie it, or you could take the middle of the rope and tie it, right? That was possible, right?
That was possible.
Sure, and that could be done, right?
I guess it could be, yes.
And there would be no need for a knife at that point, would there?
No, I guess not.
And so, in this case, you have this rope. Take a look at exhibit number 63. Recognize this?
Yes.
This is Mr. Alexander's bedroom, correct?
Yes.
And this is the bed that you indicated that the sexual activity took place, correct?
Yes.
And you're indicating that the rope, from what you testified on direct examination, went behind here, right?
Yes.
And then it came around,
Yes.
and then you were sort of spread-eagled there, correct?
Yes.
So that your left hand would have been up here,
That's correct.
and your right hand would have been up here, right?
Yes.
And that the rope sort of went behind there, right?
Yes.
Was it looped once, or was it looped twice?
Do you mean around the back?
Yeah.
Just once.
And so it wasn't attached to anything at all then, right?
No, just my wrists.
And so that it was loosely fitting, if you will, around the back here, right?
Yes.
And this activity did not take very long, right?
No, it didn't.
And you then slipped out of the rope, right?
Yes.
And then you continued with the activity, right?
Yes.
There wasn't, at that point, both of you were interested in whatever the object is in sexual activity, right? Whatever it was for you, right?
Yes.
Both of you were interested in that at that point, right?
Yes.
You weren't taking the bed linens off the bed or anything like that at that point, right?
No.
You weren't doing anything other than, weren't doing anything other than being into each other, correct?
That's correct.
And so at that point, when you're doing that, the rope is still there, isn't it?
I don't remember if we left it there and got it afterward, or if he pulled it out, threw it on the side with the rest of the rope.
Well, no, because what you said is, remember, you just told me that. What you did is you just pulled your hand out of the rope, right?
Yes.
And your hand, you told me, was right here.
Well, my right hand would be there.
Right? And then your left hand would be over here, right?
Yes.
And so you just pulled your hands out,
Right?
and then you continued with whatever activity you were involved in, right?
Yes.
Because previous to that, he had been engaging in an activity that was uncomfortable for you, right?
Yes, it was a little uncomfortable.
And you asked him to stop, and he did, right?
Yeah.
What activity did you engage in, without regaling us with the details, what did you engage in afterwards? What position did you take?
I think that was when the photos began.
Okay, so then you started to take the photographs, right?
Yes.
Now take a look at exhibits numbers 166, 165 through 169. Go ahead and take a look. Those are the photographs that were taken, that you just told us were taken after you slipped your hands out of the noose, right?
Yes, not directly, but after that, yes.
Well, you said they were, what you told us just now was that you slipped your hands out of the noose, you continued the sexual activity and started to take photographs. Do you remember you just told us that?
Yes.
You've looked at those photographs, right?
Yes.
There's 2 photographs of Mr. Alexander, and there's how many of you? 4? Take a look. Just count them out.
Yes, 4.
And there is some KY there, right? KY personal lubricant, correct?
That's correct.
And that's the same type of, that is what you introduced him to according to the May 10, 2008 conversation, right?
Yes.
And nowhere there do you see any rope, do you?
No.
So there, even though you just told us that you continued with the sexual activity, immediately after you took your hands out of the rope is nowhere to be pictured, is it?
Objection, Ms. Character, in testimony, she did not say immediately.
Restate your question.
Ma'am, you told us that you pulled your hands out of the rope, right?
Yes.
And you told us that it was long enough to go all the way around the back here, right?
Yes.
Presumably, there's nothing in the back to hold it up, right?
No, nothing.
It went straight all the way to the ground because of gravity, right?
When I slipped my wrists out, yes.
The rope that was back there, it went all the way down to the ground because of gravity, because there's nothing holding it up, right?
Yeah, after I took my wrists out.
Not after, before.
No, it wasn't that long, I don't think.
Well, let me just ask the questions, please, all right? The rope is looped behind here, behind the headboard, correct?
That's correct.
There's nothing holding it up back there, correct?
Back there, no.
No, it's not the ideal headboard for tying people up, right?
It's not.
It's just standing there, right?
What, the headboard?
Yes.
Yes.
And then you said that it came around this way like this
Yes.
to your right hand, correct?
Yes.
And it came around here like this to your right hand, correct?
Yes.
And then you said that your legs were in this portion of the bed, correct?
Right.
If we want, we can take a look at another photograph of that area. Exhibit number 64. Recognize that?
Yes.
This is the arm wall that you told us that you were leaning up against when the men and the women came, the man and the woman came in, right?
Yes.
But if you could take a look at it, this is the back of it right here, correct?
The back of what? The bed?
Well, what do you think I'm pointing at, ma'am?
We were just talking about the armoire. So
Okay, but what am I pointing at right now?
the bed?
And your left arm would have been right here, correct?
Yes.
In this area. Your feet would have been down here, correct?
Yes.
And there was a sheet or something on top of it, right?
The blankets and sheets.
The
were
blanket and sheets, right. And you said that, well, I slipped my hands or my wrists out of the rope, right?
there. That's correct.
if gravity has the rope already down here on the ground, you agree that it's already down on the ground, the rope, right?
I don't think so. I think it was too
Oh,
short.
Pardon?
It was too short to hit the ground. It was more like, I mean, it was kind of pulled taut.
So what you're saying now is that when you told me before that the rope was back here, now you're saying that that's not true.
It's still back there, but I don't know what you're, I don't think I can visualize what you're talking about.
I'm
Maybe we're talking
asking-
about different things.
I'm asking about this rope that you claim was used to tie you up. Do you remember that?
Yes.
All right. There is nothing behind this headboard. Exhibit number 66. It's not mission-style furniture, is it?
I don't know what mission-style furniture is.
Slats. It doesn't have any slats.
No, it doesn't.
It's more like a sleigh, correct?
Yes, it's a sleigh bed.
And as a sleigh bed, it doesn't have anything in the back that would hold a rope if it was draped around it.
I guess not, if it was
Well,
just,
no, you were there and you were the person that was tied up, right?
yes.
And so if the rope is already all the way down on the ground, when you get your arm out here, which would be your right arm, and your left arm here, then the rope would just remain there, wouldn't it?
If that were the case, but it wasn't.
Well, that's how you described it to start with, didn't you?
I never talked about the rope touching the ground behind the bed, no.
You didn't what?
I never talked about the rope touching the ground behind the bed.
So you think now that the rope never touched the bottom of the ground then, right?
Well, it was pulled taut, so I guess I'd be speculating because I don't have x-ray vision and I didn't look behind the bed, but the rope was tight.
So the rope was tight. But if the rope is tight, then that means you can't get your wrists out, right? Because then you have to hold on. It has to hold on to your wrist. It's now tight, right?
No.
Sustained.
You said that your wrists are tight, correct?
The rope was tight.
Okay. The rope was tight on your wrists, correct?
No, the rope was pulled tight.
Okay. The rope was pulled tight. Your wrists were covered or circled by this rope, correct?
Yes.
And they were pulled tight, correct?
The nooses were loose enough to slip out of.
Pardon?
The nooses were loose enough to slip out of.
Right, but you're saying that it was tight, correct?
Yes, I was putting pressure on the...
So if it's tight on your wrist, if it's pulled taut, I think that's the term that you may have used,
Yes.
correct? If it's pulled taut, how is it then that if you can just slip your hand out, that it's still in place?
The rope is still in place?
Right.
Well, I don't know what you mean.
Well, the point is it's either loose or it's tight. Which one was it? Is it tight around your wrist so that it creates a situation where it doesn't go down to the ground? Or is it loose around your wrist so that the rope is down on the ground? Which one is it?
It was pulled taut, and the nooses were wide enough to slip my hands in and out of. That's all I can really say about it. I don't know about ropes and things.
And while you were and this is why you were tied up, right?
Yes.
And so where's the rest of the rope?
Wherever he left it.
Okay.
Somewhere in that room or the bathroom, I guess.
Okay. So you don't know where he left the other rope, right?
Not offhand.
Most people don't have a knife in their bedrooms, do they? Well, he didn't usually have a knife in his bedroom, correct?
The action calls for speculation.
Overruled.
To my knowledge, that's correct. He never did.
Right. And this would be the first time that you ever saw that he had a knife in his bedroom, right?
That I saw, yes.
And so where did he cut the rope? Not what on the rope, not where on the rope, but where in the
He
house?
cut it in the bathroom.
So he did it in the bathroom. Did he come into the bedroom with the knife, or did he leave it in the bathroom?
I don't remember. He I don't remember where he put the knife when he was done.
Do you remember telling Richard Samuels that he actually brought the knife back and left it on the nightstand so that he could cut the rope off of your wrists?
I remember speculating about where the knife was left, but he didn't need to cut the rope.
You didn't tell Mr. Richard Samuels that the knife was used to cut the rope from your wrists.
Not from my wrist, but to cut the rope, yes.
And you don't remember that it was on the nightstand, right?
I don't remember exactly where it was.
Do you remember telling Richard Samuels that when this attack was going on, that you remembered that the knife was near the nightstand and because it had been used to cut the rope? Do you remember anything like that?
I remember speculating about that.
Well, are you sure that you said, I'm speculating that the knife was used to cut the rope?
I'm sure I did not say speculating when I was speculating.
Well, let me ask it directly then. Are you saying that the knife was used to cut the rope from your wrists or not?
Not from my wrist, but to cut it, yes.
I understand to cut it. I asked wrists.
I
From
didn't-
your wrist, was the knife used to cut the rope from your wrists?
No.
You remember somebody by the name of Cheryl Karp?
Yes.
And you discussed the same incident with her, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
So, again, are you sure that the knife was not necessary to cut the rope from your wrists?
I'm sure it wasn't necessary to cut it off of me.
And not only was it not necessary, that's not what was done, correct?
Cut off?
Right.
That's correct.
You slipped your hands out, correct?
Yes.
And then you continued with the activities of the day, correct?
Yes.
Whatever it was that you guys were going to do, correct?
Yes.
You keep talking about a movie, and there's an indication perhaps that there's a movie that was made, but it wasn't made, if there was one, with Mr. Alexander's camera, correct?
I don't remember which camera we used because mine did movies too. And his was kind of new to me, so it was a little bit hard to figure out all of the features on it.
Do you remember testifying on direct examination about this issue then?
Yes.
Do you remember that you specifically told us that you could not use Mr. Alexander's camera to take this video? Do you remember telling us that?
I don't remember saying I couldn't.
Do you remember that you said that it couldn't be done for whatever reason? You guys couldn't do it?
Objection, mischaracterizes her testimony.
Overruled.
No, I think I was talking about the timer.
Ma'am, do you remember, let's just take a look at Exhibit 167. Remember talking about this particular photograph and saying, I was trying to set up the camera so that we could take a video, but it didn't work because you didn't know how to do it. Do you remember telling us that?
Yes, I remember that.
So now you remember, right?
Yes. Well, you said couldn't. Doesn't mean I couldn't. I just couldn't figure it out. Doesn't mean I couldn't take a video if I didn't sit and try to figure it out. But we were in the mood and didn't want to sit and tinker with it.
What are you saying in terms of the camera? Did you attempt to use Mr. Alexander's camera to videotape the sexual activity? Yes or no?
Yes.
Remember just now you told me that you didn't? Or that you couldn't remember?
That I couldn't.
Used his camera.
I couldn't remember which camera we ultimately used.
So, but do you remember that previously in this hearing, in this trial, you told us that you could remember?
Could remember what?
What are we talking about again here? We're talking about videotaping the sexual activity in which camera is involved. Do you have any problem understanding that?
No.
So, do you remember on direct examination that you told us something different than what you're telling us now?
Objection, mischaracterizes her testimony, Judge.
Overruled.
I'm just answering the questions to the best of my memory, so.
I'm not asking you if you're answering the questions to the best of your memory, am I?
No.
I'm asking you whether you have changed your story from testifying earlier to now. That's what I'm asking you.
The answer is no.
Well, then, do you remember testifying that you and Mr. Alexander, when this photograph was taken, were attempting to use his camera to videotape the activity? Do you remember telling us that?
I don't remember specifically saying that, but that would be accurate.
And that's something that you didn't tell us previously now. You've now changed that from what you told us a couple of minutes ago, right?
Objection, this characterizes the testimony, Judge.
Overruled.
I don't think so. I think it's all consistent.
Huh?
You're just asking different questions.
Okay. And then, after doing that, there was a situation where you got up and you got your camera, right?
Yes.
And you say that this camera was used to videotape the activity, correct?
Correct.
So, where's the rope?
At this point, I guess it would be somewhere on the floor.
Why would it be on the floor if it was already on the floor to start with?
The part that was not used went on the floor to start with, I think.
Don't mean to be exploitive about this, but we'll start with this photograph here of Mr. Alexander, 166. Do you see where this is, ma'am?
Yes.
This is the corner of the bed. Do you see that?
Yes.
You said that your arms or hands were tied down here. Do you remember telling us that?
They were in that general area.
Sure. And if the rope is down on the ground, you take your hands out, that rope is still going to remain there, right?
No.
Well, let's take another view. 168. This is where your hands were, right?
Yes.
And this is where the rope was, right?
Yes.
It isn't there, is it?
Not anymore.
Well, you keep saying that anymore. It isn't there at all, is it?
It wasn't there when that photo was taken.
After this activity, you and Mr. Alexander, according to you, had something to eat, right?
Yes.
And after that, there was sort of a lull in the day's activities, right?
Yes.
Why didn't you just go home at that point? You said that part of the reason was just to have sex. That's been accomplished. Why not go home there? Why
Wasn't
stick
the
around?
only reason?
Pardon?
Because going there to have sex was not the only reason for going there.
What was the other reason?
To spend time together?
And so you guys are continuing to spend time together, right?
Yes.
And you want to spend time with somebody that you've described over and over as a bully, right?
Objection, this characterizes the testimony. She's never said that once.
Sustained.
Judge, may we approach? Did you indicate at all during cross-examination and any part of direct examination that he was a bully?
Yes.
And so why is it that you want to spend time with somebody that you describe as a bully?
He wasn't just a bully. He was many good things also.
Or it could be that he wasn't ever a bully, right?
That's not the case. So, no.
It could be that that's just what you're saying, right?
Objection, argumentative.
Overruled.
That's how I felt.
And the fact that you felt bullied is your perception of what was going on, right?
Yes.
So, for example, in August of 2007, when he's banging his head up against the closet door and then sort of comes after you and grabs your wrist and hugs you, that's bullying, right?
I didn't consider that bullying.
So, but again, it's your perception as to what he's doing that constitutes your definition of what bullying is, correct?
Yes, when I feel bullied.
After that, you tell us something about going downstairs and you're looking at some CDs or something like that, correct?
Yes.
And with regard to your camera, where did you keep the camera?
My Olympus, the one we used?
I don't know which one it was. You're the one that was there. You had a camera, correct?
Yes, I had 2 cameras with me.
Okay. Which camera was used to attempt to videotape the sexual activity?
The Olympus.
And was it successful?
Yes, I knew how to use video on that camera.
Pardon?
Yes.
And did you guys view it afterwards?
Yes.
Did you delete it afterwards?
Yes.
Immediately?
Yes.
How about the photographs that were taken from his camera? Were they deleted immediately afterwards?
To my knowledge, we deleted them afterward, yes.
The way you say that, to my knowledge, it means that you're not sure, right?
I'm not sure because he did the deleting, I think.
So it could be that they weren't deleted right afterwards, right?
Could be.
And you wouldn't know because you weren't watching what he was doing, right? You were watching what he was doing, but you weren't engaged in the transaction yourself, correct?
That's correct.
With regard to that camera and deleting pictures, this was the first exposure that you've had to that camera, right?
Yes.
You hadn't seen it before, right?
That's right.
And in fact, although you indicated to Detective Flores that you helped them buy this camera, right?
Yes.
You helped them buy it telephonically, right?
Yes.
And so the camera that he had before that day, before the sexual activity, you had never deleted any images from that camera, right?
Prior to June 4th, no.
And after the sexual activity, there was photographs that were taken during the activity, correct?
Yes.
And according to you, after the sexual activity is when he was involved in what you thought was deleting photographs, right?
I guess. I mean, I don't really recall at what point they were deleted. I just know they got deleted.
What you do know is that you didn't do the deleting, right?
I did some deleting on that phone that day with the shower pictures, so I don't.
I'm not asking about the shower pictures, am I?
No.
I'm
You just asked about
asking about-
deleting, so I answered.
I'm asking about, let's restrict ourselves to the sexual activity for right now, all right?
Yes.
Involving the sexual activity, you don't know whether or not he deleted those photographs, right?
Not 100% if he did or I did. I'm pretty sure he did.
But you don't know, right?
That's correct.
And up until that time, that after the sexual activity, you had not deleted any images from his camera, ever, right?
Up until that time, no.
Right. You went downstairs, right?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if the photos were deleted before or after, but we did go
I'm not
downstairs.
asking you when the phones were deleted, or the photos were deleted. I'm asking you after you were upstairs, and you just said that you, up to that point, you hadn't deleted anything. After that, you went downstairs, right?
Well, you make it sound like without deleting anything, we went downstairs. But I don't know if that was the case, if we deleted them before we went downstairs or afterward.
But you didn't do any of the deletion, right? You just said you don't know when he deleted them, right?
That's right.
So you don't know if they were deleted before you went downstairs or at some later time, right?
That's correct.
And so you then go downstairs because we don't know if the images were deleted yet, right?
That's correct.
Is that when you took your shower?
I don't know if I ate the banana first or if I took a shower first.
All right, but at some point, before or after the banana, you took a shower.
Yes.
And was he in the bathroom, Mr. Alexander, when you were taking your shower?
At one point, yes, and then afterward, no.
Okay. And that's the only shower that you took that day, correct?
I don't know, because I have a lot of memory gaps that day. That's the only one I remember taking.
So now the memory gaps start, correct?
Well,
Is that
when
what
you talk
said?
in terms of the whole day, you said that day. I can't
Well,
answer.
I'm asking that day after 1:45 in the afternoon, you said you took a shower, right?
I don't know what time it was, but we took a shower after sex. I did.
Right. Take a look at photograph number 165. Recognize that?
Yes, I do.
What is it?
It's my stuff down there.
Is it a picture of your rear end, right?
Yes,
And it does have a time on there, doesn't it?
yes,
What's the time on there?
1:44 p.m.
So my question to you was, after 1:45 in the afternoon, did you take a shower?
Yes, after that point, yes. Not
Okay.
immediately after necessarily.
All right. And you told us that it was perhaps before or after you ate the banana, right?
Yes,
And while you were taking a shower, Mr. Alexander was there for a little bit of time and then he was somewhere else, right?
he was in the bathroom at first and then he left.
And you took a shower in the same place where you placed his body after you killed him, right?
Yes,
And after you took the shower, you got dressed in the pants that you were wearing at the time that you killed him, right?
I believe so.
When you say you believe so, was there a costume change throughout this whole event?
Not that I recall.
And after the shower, where was he?
After my shower, he was downstairs in his office.
Okay, and then you went down there, right?
Yes, I did.
The only reason that you know he was downstairs is because you went down there, right?
Yes.
Where was your camera?
I don't know at that point if I had put it in the car or afterward or what. I don't know.
This was June 4th of 2008, right?
Yes.
And this was after 1:45 in the afternoon, right?
Yes.
Why would you put a camera in a very hot car in the Mesa area where temperatures can go over 105, 110 degrees?
I didn't
Outside.
say I did. I didn't say I did. I said I didn't remember.
No, you said that you don't remember, but you thought you put it in the car, right?
I said I don't remember if it was still in the house or in the car at that point.
All right. So at some point, you said that you also took your luggage out, right?
Yes.
And your luggage included toiletries and that sort of thing, right?
Yes, and clothing.
Right? So when did you take your items out to the car?
I don't remember the exact moment or sequence.
I'm not asking the exact moment. Give me an hour period.
I don't know.
Well, what is it, after 1:45?
It was after that.
Was it before 5:30?
Probably. I don't recall.
Well, the photographs in the shower at 5:30. Had you already taken your items downstairs?
I'm not sure. I think, but I'm not 100%.
Do you remember when you testified on direct examination regarding this issue?
Yes.
Remember that you told us that by the time the shower was taken, you had already put the luggage, those items in the car.
The luggage, yes. I'm not sure about the camera.
Okay, so the luggage did go into the car then, right?
Yes.
But didn't you also tell us that the other bag also went into the car before you were taking these photographs? Do you
The
remember telling us
backpack,
that?
Yes.
How many bags did you have that day?
I had my backpack, my carry-on suitcase, my purse, and my camera case, and my laptop.
Okay, so your laptop, is that going out at the same time that your suitcase is going out or no?
No, because, well, I had the laptop in the office when I pulled the CDs out. I don't really remember. I know I had it at that point, but I don't remember when it went in the car.
Well, it was obviously before 5:30 though, right?
The laptop, I don't know, I guess.
Well, that's when he was in the shower at 5:30, right?
Yes.
Okay? And didn't you tell us on direct examination that by that time you had already taken all of your stuff down into the car? Do you remember telling us that then?
I remember saying the luggage and things, yes.
So you don't remember that you told us that the rest of the items were also taken down and put in the car?
Well, I don't know about the camera or the...
I'm not asking about the camera. I'm asking about all the other items. Because the camera, you've told me you don't know. And then we talked about the laptop, remember?
Yes.
And so I'm asking you, when did the other items go down? Let's keep the camera out of this equation. When did the other items go down into the car?
I don't know.
Why is it that you don't know, ma'am?
They're just details that I don't remember. I remember some things and like major things and not, I don't know, they're details.
Why is it that you don't remember the details today, but when you were talking about them within the last couple of weeks, you did remember them? Why is that? That's my point.
Well, I was uncertain about those too. I just was, obviously it went in the car at one point. I just don't know exactly which point.
But do you remember telling us last week that the luggage and the other items all went down into the car before 5:30? Do you remember telling us that?
Not that specifically.
And you don't remember telling us that the camera was included and that it also went down before 5:30. Do you remember telling us that at all?
I don't know.
Judge, I think give me
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take the evening recess. Please be back in a designated area. We can start at 10:15 tomorrow. Is everyone available? All right, we'll see you then. Please remember the admonition, you are excused. Record will show the jury has left the courtroom. Ms. Arias, you may step down. Counsel.
Judge, yesterday I neglected to move into evidence exhibit number 470. I know to do it in front of the jury, but that's the first thing that I'm going to do tomorrow. It's one of the excerpts from the 48 hours, and it's actually excerpt number 15. So I'm going to move it in. It's already been played for the jury.
Is that the one that was mistakenly played?
No. I don't know if this, I don't know what it says. Do you want me to play it right now? But
Why don't you put it in since the jury isn't present, we'll just make sure.
what's that? It's my 15 right here.
And you did play this before, right?
Yeah, I think, I'm sure it is.
Yeah, that's fine. That's right.
Yeah.
We don't need to replay it, Judge. I just want to know what it was. Now that I've got the note, that's fine.
You can move it into evidence tomorrow, and I will admit it without objection.
You said tomorrow?
Well, tomorrow, not today. All right, we're in recess. Thank you.